The Illyrians were known across the galaxy as gentle and calm beings. Their worlds were quiet, filled with soft light and slow-moving skies. For thousands of cycles they avoided conflict of any kind. They did not fight wars, they did not threaten others, and they rarely chose allies. When problems appeared between star systems, the Illyrians usually stayed neutral, offering only kind words and distance. Because of this, many species believed the Illyrians would never take sides. They were respected but also seen as distant. Some thought the Illyrians were too careful, even fearful. Others believed they were simply above conflict, choosing peace no matter the cost. That belief began to change when tension started growing across nearby star systems. Trade routes became unstable. Resources grew scarce in some regions. Misunderstandings increased and trust weakened. No open conflict happened, but the feeling of unease spread quietly, like a shadow moving through space. Many species waited to see what the Illyrians would do. Then came the announcement. The Illyrian Council invited a human delegation to speak. The news spread fast. Across the galaxy, reactions ranged from shock to confusion. Humans were not known as a peaceful species. Their history was full of struggle, disasters, and internal conflict. Many wondered why the Illyrians would choose humans first instead of older and calmer civilizations. Some observers whispered that the Illyrians had made a mistake. Others waited, curious but cautious. The human delegation arrived without spectacle. There were no large escorts, no displays of power, and no loud announcements. Their ship was modest and practical. When it landed on the Illyrian meeting platform, it did so quietly, almost respectfully. Alex stepped out first. He was calm, his movements slow and deliberate. He looked around, taking in the soft glow of Illyrian architecture. His face showed curiosity, not judgment. Sarah followed closely. She carried a small data case and kept her eyes focused, observing everything. She did not rush. She did not speak unless needed. Her posture was relaxed but attentive. Leo was the last to step out. He adjusted his jacket slightly and took a deep breath. He looked thoughtful, as if aware of the weight of the moment. He did not smile widely, but his expression was open and sincere. Together, they walked forward and stopped at the marked point on the platform. They waited. Illyrian representatives approached slowly. Their movements were smooth and unhurried. Their faces showed no strong emotion, only calm interest. They studied the humans carefully, not with suspicion but with focus. Alex inclined his head slightly. "Thank you for inviting us," he said simply. His voice was steady. "We're honored to be here." There were no demands in his words. No hidden pressure. Just acknowledgement. The Illyrians noticed. Sarah added, "We are here to listen first." She placed the data case gently at her side. "We know this is a sensitive time." Leo nodded. "We don't claim to have all the answers. We only hope to understand." The Illyrians exchanged quiet looks among themselves. This was not what many had expected. There was no attempt to impress. No promises of strength or protection. Only patience. Inside the Illyrian Council chamber, the atmosphere remained calm but curious. The room was open and filled with soft light. There were no sharp edges, no barriers. The space itself reflected Illyrian values. As the meeting began, the Illyrians spoke first. They explained the growing tension between star systems and their concern for long-term peace. They did not accuse anyone. They simply stated facts and worries. Alex listened carefully. He did not interrupt. When one Illyrian paused, Alex nodded, showing understanding. Sarah took notes quietly, but she often looked up, meeting the speaker's eyes. Her attention never drifted. Leo leaned slightly forward, focused on every word. When the Illyrians finished, there was a moment of silence. Alex spoke again. "We understand why this worries you," he said. "Humans know what happens when tension is ignored." The Illyrians waited. "Our history is not perfect," Alex continued. "We've made mistakes. Many of them. But we learned something important." Sarah looked up. "Ignoring problems doesn't make them disappear. Talking about them early does." Leo added, "Peace isn't fragile. It just needs care." These words stayed in the room longer than expected. The Illyrians asked questions not about human power or technology, but about human choices. Why did humans rebuild after disasters? Why did they continue seeking cooperation after failure? Sarah answered softly. "Because we have to. Our world doesn't forgive hesitation." Leo nodded. "We learned that survival isn't about winning. It's about continuing." Alex said nothing for a moment, then added, "And continuing together." The Illyrians listened closely. There was no fear in the humans' voices. No pride. Only honesty. Outside the chamber, observers from other species watched carefully. They expected tension, maybe arguments. Instead, they saw calm discussion and shared reflection. One observer whispered, "They don't act like conquerors." Another replied, "They act like survivors." As the meeting ended, the Illyrians thanked the humans. There were no agreements made that day. No alliances declared. But something had shifted. The Illyrians felt understood. The humans left the chamber the same way they entered, quietly, without demands. Alex glanced back once, thoughtful. Sarah closed her data case slowly. Leo exhaled, his shoulders relaxing slightly. They did not know what the outcome would be. They only knew they had spoken honestly. And for the Illyrians, that honesty mattered more than strength. Across the galaxy, many still questioned the choice. But a quiet understanding had begun. For the first time, the Illyrians had seen a species that understood struggle, and did not glorify it. And that was enough to listen. Doubts spread quickly after the Illyrians invited humans to speak. Across many star systems, leaders questioned the decision. Messages moved quietly between councils and observers. The same thought appeared again and again. Why humans? Humans came from a world known for storms, shifting land, and dangerous weather. Their history records showed disasters that destroyed cities, floods that swallowed coastlines, and long periods of hardship. Other species saw this and assumed humans were unstable, shaped by chaos instead of harmony. Some believed humans carried conflict wherever they went. In quiet chambers far from Illyrian space, voices spoke openly. "They are survivors, yes," one delegate said. "But survival does not mean wisdom." "They fight their own kind," another added. "How can they guide peace?" Many agreed. To them, humanity looked like a risky choice. But the Illyrians saw something different. Inside their vast knowledge halls, Illyrian scholars reviewed human records slowly and carefully. They did not focus on battles or arguments. They looked at what came after. They saw cities rebuilt after earthquakes, communities forming after storms, people sharing food when resources were low. They noticed how humans argued, failed, and then tried again. One Illyrian researcher paused at a record showing a great disaster on Earth. Millions were affected. Homes were lost. Fear was everywhere. But then came the next part. Humans organized relief efforts. Strangers helped strangers. Supplies moved across borders. Old disagreements were set aside, at least for a time. The rebuilding was slow, painful, and imperfect, but it happened. The Illyrians marked this carefully. Another record showed a human mistake in governance. The result was suffering and loss. Other species might hide such errors or erase them from history. Humans did not. They recorded them. They debated them. They argued about what went wrong. And slowly, changes followed. "They remember their failures," one Illyrian scholar noted. "They do not pretend they never happened." That mattered deeply to the Illyrians. The Illyrians believed peace was fragile only when truth was ignored. They had seen other species deny their mistakes, repeat them, and then wonder why harmony broke. Humans, by contrast, seemed unable to forget. In one quiet session, an Illyrian elder spoke softly. "They carry their past like weight," she said. "But they do not drop it. They learn to walk with it." Meanwhile, other species continued to doubt. At a neutral observation station, several delegates watched recordings of the human meeting. "They look calm," one said. "Too calm." "They hide aggression well," another replied. But a third observer shook his head. "No, that is not hiding. That is restraint." Back on Illyrian ground, Alex, Sarah, and Leo remained unaware of the larger debate. They were given simple accommodations and time to rest. They did not ask for special treatment. Sarah spent hours reviewing data, carefully organizing records they had brought. She paused often, thinking, adjusting notes. Leo walked the quiet paths of the Illyrian complex, observing the calm environment. He noticed how everything was designed to reduce stress. Wide spaces, soft light, slow movement. "It's peaceful," he said quietly to Alex later. Alex nodded. "It is. But peace like this takes effort too. Just a different kind." The Illyrians continued their study. They noticed how humans prepared for disasters before they happened. Warning systems, emergency plans, training drills. Not because disasters were rare, but because they were expected. One Illyrian scholar found this fascinating. "They assume the world will challenge them," he said. "So they prepare together." That word stood out. Together. Humans did not survive alone. Their records showed that clearly. Individual strength mattered, but cooperation mattered more. When systems failed, humans relied on each other. The Illyrians compared this to species that valued perfect harmony but collapsed when that harmony broke. Humans did not expect perfection. They expected difficulty. And because of that, they were ready. Gradually, the Illyrian Council began to understand why humans felt familiar in an unexpected way. Not because they were peaceful by nature, but because they valued peace enough to work for it. One Illyrian elder addressed the council. They know what it costs when peace fails, she said. That knowledge shapes their choices. Outside Illyrian space, the doubts continued. They will bring instability, some warned. They will act in their own interest, others claimed. But the Illyrians had seen the records. Humans had acted against short-term interest many times, choosing long-term survival instead. They made sacrifices. They argued about them. But they made them. That impressed the Illyrians more than quiet perfection ever could. When the council finally met again, the atmosphere was thoughtful, not tense. We have studied them carefully, the lead elder said. They are flawed. No one disagreed. But they learn, she continued. And they remember. The council fell silent. They do not deny their storms, the elder said. They build shelters. They do not deny their mistakes. They build better paths. That was why the Illyrians continued speaking with humans, despite the doubts of the galaxy. They did not see chaos. They saw experience. And in a galaxy growing uneasy, experience mattered. Far away, other species would one day understand this choice. But for now, the Illyrians listened quietly, confident in what they had seen. Humans were not chosen because they were perfect. They were chosen because they knew how to rebuild. The next meetings between the Illyrians and humans were calm and unhurried. There was no pressure to rush decisions. Both sides agreed to take their time. For the Illyrians, this patience felt natural. For many other species, it would have been seen as weakness. But the humans did not seem uncomfortable with the slow pace. Alex sat at the center of the human delegation. When he spoke, he kept his words simple. He did not use grand promises or strong language. He spoke clearly, choosing honesty over polish. We are not here to tell you what to do, Alex said during one session. We are here to understand what you need and to share what we've learned. The Illyrians listened closely. They noticed that Alex never spoke over them. When an Illyrian paused, Alex waited. When a question was asked, he answered directly, even when the answer was difficult. Sarah sat beside him, quiet most of the time. She listened more than she spoke. Her eyes followed every Illyrian speaker, and she often nodded slightly, showing she was paying attention. When she did ask questions, they were careful and thoughtful. You've maintained peace for a very long time, she said once. What do you fear losing the most if tensions grow? The Illyrians were surprised by the question. Other species usually asked about power, borders, or resources. Sarah asked about fear. An Illyrian elder answered slowly. We fear losing trust. Once it breaks, it is hard to rebuild. Sarah nodded. We understand that, she said softly. Trust is fragile. Humans have broken it before. Rebuilding it takes time. Leo spoke less often, but when he did, his words carried weight. He did not avoid uncomfortable topics. When the Illyrians asked about humanity's past conflicts, Leo did not defend them. We made many mistakes, he said openly. Some caused great harm. We won't excuse them. The room grew quiet. We don't pretend we were always right, Leo continued. We were afraid. We were divided. Sometimes we chose poorly. The Illyrians watched him carefully. There was no shame in his voice but no pride either. Just acceptance. What changed? One Illyrian asked. Leo thought for a moment. Pain teaches, he said. Loss teaches faster. We learned that refusing to admit mistakes only creates more. Alex added, we still fail. But we try not to lie to ourselves about it. That honesty stood out. The Illyrians had spoken with many species over the centuries. Most arrived confident, polished, and guarded. They avoided admitting weakness. They feared losing respect. The humans did the opposite. They did not claim to be superior. They did not present themselves as saviors. They spoke as equals, sometimes even as students. One Illyrian observer noted quietly, they do not fear looking imperfect. That was rare. During one long session, an Illyrian representative asked, why did you accept our invitation so quickly? Alex answered without hesitation. Because we know what happens when silence grows between neighbors. Sarah added, misunderstanding fills the space. Leo nodded. And once fear settles in, it's hard to remove. The Illyrians understood that. They had seen it happen elsewhere. Throughout the meetings, humans showed patience. When Illyrian discussions slowed, they did not push. When questions repeated, they answered again without frustration. When misunderstandings arose, they clarified calmly. At one point, an Illyrian speaker misunderstood a human term and grew uneasy. Sarah noticed immediately. "I think we may have explained that poorly," she said gently. "Let me try again." She rephrased the idea in simpler words. The tension eased. The Illyrians noticed how often humans took responsibility for communication. They did not blame language differences or cultural gaps. They adjusted instead. Outside the council chamber, observers from other species watched the recordings with mixed reactions. "They're too open," one said. "That can be dangerous." "They're weak," another claimed. "They admit failure freely." But a few watched more carefully. "They are confident enough to be honest," one observer said quietly. "That takes strength." Inside the chamber, the Illyrians began to relax. Their movements softened. Their questions grew deeper. They asked not just about policy but about human values. "What keeps your people together?" one elder asked. Alex answered simply. "Hope. Sometimes stubborn hope." Sarah smiled faintly. "And the belief that tomorrow can be better if we work at it." Leo added, "And the memory of what happens when we don't." The Illyrians exchanged thoughtful looks. As the meetings continued over many cycles, a quiet bond formed. Not an alliance yet, but understanding. Respect grew naturally without force. The Illyrians realized that humans were not trying to impress them. They were trying to be clear. And clarity to the Illyrians was a form of peace. When the session ended, the Illyrian Council thanked the humans again. There were still no decisions made, no announcements shared. But something important had changed. Trust had begun to grow. As the humans left the chamber, Leo exhaled slowly. "That went better than I expected," he said quietly. Sarah nodded. "Because we didn't pretend to be perfect." Alex looked back at the council doors. "We just told the truth." The Illyrians watched them go, thoughtful and calm. They had seen strength before. But honesty like this was rare. And in a galaxy full of careful words and hidden motives, the Illyrians found the humans' openness quietly powerful. Small disagreements began quietly. They did not start as threats or open arguments. They appeared as trade delays, unclear borders, and shared resources used without agreement. Nearby systems felt uneasy. No one wanted conflict, but no one wanted to give up security either. The Illyrians watched carefully. They had seen this pattern before. Small problems, when ignored, often grew into larger ones. Normally, the Illyrians would step back, hoping calm words alone would soften the tension. This time they chose a different path. They invited the humans to observe and offer thoughts. Alex, Sarah, and Leo studied the situation closely. They reviewed records, listened to messages from both sides, and asked simple questions. They did not rush to speak. "These disagreements feel small," Sarah said quietly during a private discussion. "But small things grow fast when people feel unheard." Leo nodded. "That's how it always starts." When the first joint meeting was held, representatives from the nearby systems arrived tense and guarded. Each side believed the other was acting unfairly. Voices were calm but tight. The Illyrians opened the discussion, then stepped back. Alex spoke gently. "Before we talk about solutions," he said, "can we agree on what everyone needs to feel safe?" The room grew quiet. This was not the question they expected. One representative answered slowly. "We need stable access to resources." Another added, "We need clear borders." A third said, "We need trust that agreements will be honored." Alex nodded. "Those needs don't conflict," he said. "They overlap." Sarah leaned forward. "You're not fighting over power," she said. "You're worried about stability." The tension eased slightly. People listened. Leo spoke next. "Humans have had conflicts like this many times. We learned that arguing over who is right doesn't help much." One delegate frowned. "Then what does?" Leo answered simply. "Planning for tomorrow instead of proving yesterday." The humans suggested small, calm steps. Shared monitoring systems. Clear schedules. Open communication channels that stayed active even when nothing was wrong. Nothing dramatic. Nothing forceful. They did not push for quick agreements. They encouraged gradual trust. "Peace isn't a moment," Sarah said. "It's a habit." The Illyrians watched closely. They noticed how the humans never raised their voices. They did not accuse. They repeated points patiently when confusion arose. When one representative grew defensive, Alex responded calmly. "We're not here to blame anyone," he said. "We're here to make sure no one feels cornered." That word mattered. Cornered. The Illyrians understood it well. Species that felt trapped often reacted badly, even when they did not want to. As discussions continued, the humans asked questions that shifted focus. What happens if resources drop suddenly? How do you warn each other early? What would rebuilding trust look like if something goes wrong? These questions were not about winning. They were about endurance. The Illyrians began to understand something important. Humans did not speak this way because they enjoyed conflict. They spoke this way because they remembered it. They had lived through moments when small disagreements became disasters. They had seen how pride delayed peace and how silence made fear grow. After several sessions, the nearby systems reached quiet agreements. Not perfect ones, but workable ones. More importantly, they agreed to keep talking. The Illyrians observed the results over time. Tension eased. Trade stabilized. Trust, though still fragile, began to form. An Illyrian elder spoke privately with Lin, who had been observing the process. They see conflict clearly, the elder said. Not as something exciting or honorable, but as something costly. Lin nodded. They understand the price. Elsewhere, other species took notice. They expected humans to choose sides or push influence. Instead, humans kept stepping back once solutions formed. They don't cling to control, one observer noted. They guide then let go, another said. Back with the Illyrians, Alex reflected quietly with Sarah and Leo. We didn't fix anything, Alex said. They did. Sarah smiled faintly. We just helped them slow down. Leo added, and remember what matters. The Illyrians saw now why humans felt different. Humans did not fear conflict because they had survived it. But they did not chase it either. They treated peace as something earned through care, not assumed by silence. One Illyrian elder shared this thought during a council session. Humans do not romanticize struggle, she said. They respect it enough to avoid repeating it. The council agreed. When reports spread across the galaxy, reactions were mixed. Some still doubted. Others grew curious. How did humans calm the situation? Many asked. The answer was simple. They listened. They remembered. They planned beyond the moment. And the Illyrians understood something quietly powerful. Humans understood conflict deeply not because they loved it, but because they had paid its cost. That understanding made their calm solutions real. And in a galaxy full of rising tension, that kind of wisdom was rare. As cooperation continued, the change spread slowly but clearly across nearby systems. It was not announced with speeches or declarations. It appeared in small details that were easy to miss at first. Trade routes reopened. Delays shortened. Conversations became calmer. Where humans and Illyrians worked together, fear began to fade. Merchants noticed it first. Ships that once traveled with heavy escorts now moved with lighter protection. Routes that had been avoided due to tension were used again. Trade stations reported fewer disputes and smoother exchanges. No one could point to a single moment when things improved. It happened quietly. The Illyrians observed closely. They watched how humans acted when things went well. They did not demand credit. They did not rush to expand influence. They simply stayed present. Alex continued to attend joint meetings, often saying little. When asked for input, he spoke carefully. If it's working, he said once, don't change it too fast. Sarah focused on communication systems. She helped create shared channels where concerns could be raised early. Problems grow in silence, she said. So let's keep talking. Leo monitored long-term patterns. He tracked small signs of stress before they became visible problems. Early tension is easier to ease, he explained. The Illyrians appreciated this approach. Humans did not act like guardians or leaders. They acted like neighbors. Other species began to notice the pattern. Why are those systems calmer? One observer asked. Humans are involved, another replied. That should make things worse, someone said. But it didn't. Fear did not disappear completely, but it softened. Disagreements still happened, but they did not spiral. When misunderstandings arose, humans encouraged direct discussion instead of quiet resentment. In one instance, a trade disagreement threatened to stall cooperation. Supplies were delayed. Voices grew tense. Before frustration could build, Sarah suggested a pause. Let's rest and talk again tomorrow, she said calmly. No decisions made while stressed. The suggestion worked. The next meeting was calmer. The issue was resolved. The Illyrians watched this carefully. Humans respect emotional limits, one Illyrian noted. They do not push until something breaks. Trade continued to improve. Shared projects began forming. Infrastructure was repaired together. Knowledge was exchanged openly. Humans never demanded authority. They did not station control forces. They did not rewrite laws. They offered advice only when asked. This restraint surprised many. One council member from another system said quietly, "They could take control. Why don't they?" An Illyrian elder answered simply, "Because control does not create peace. Trust does." Trust grew slowly but steadily. When small crises appeared, humans responded calmly. They helped coordinate responses, then stepped back. They did not linger or claim ownership of success. Alex once declined public praise. "It wasn't our work alone," he said. "Peace belongs to everyone involved." The Illyrians noticed how often humans used the word together. Together build. Together plan. Together recover. This language mattered. Over time, fear-based policies faded. Systems shared information more freely. Emergency planning improved. Neighboring worlds felt safer knowing someone would answer when called. Humans remained consistent. They did not change behavior when pressure eased. They did not relax carelessly. Peace to them was something maintained, not assumed. Leo explained it quietly during one Illyrian session. "Peace is like a structure," he said. "If you stop maintaining it, it weakens." The Illyrians agreed. Other species began requesting human observers for their own negotiations. Not to dominate but to stabilize. "They listen," one delegate said. "They don't rush," said another. "They don't scare us," a third admitted. The Illyrians saw the truth clearly now. Humans protected peace the way they protected themselves at home, by staying alert, flexible, and calm. Not loudly. Not aggressively. Quietly and consistently. One evening, Sarah walked with an Illyrian elder through a quiet garden. The elder spoke softly. "You do not fear being blamed if things fail." Sarah shook her head. "Blame doesn't fix anything. Repair does." The elder nodded thoughtfully. As the months passed, cooperation became normal. Fear no longer guided decisions. Trust did. The galaxy noticed. And slowly, without force or command, humans and Illyrians showed what peaceful partnership could look like. Not perfect, but steady. And in a galaxy long shaped by fear, that steadiness meant everything. The announcement came without drama. There were no grand displays, no loud signals sent across the stars. The Illyrians preferred quiet clarity, and this moment deserved care. Representatives from many systems gathered in the Illyrian Council space. The room was calm, filled with soft light. Conversations were low and cautious. Everyone sensed that something important was about to be shared. Alex, Sarah, and Leo stood together near the center. They were calm, though they understood the weight of the moment. None of them expected praise. None of them expected anything at all. The Illyrian elder stepped forward. "For a long time," she began, "our people have avoided alliances. We believed peace meant distance. We believed safety meant standing apart." The room remained silent. "But the galaxy has changed," the elder continued. "And we have learned that distance alone does not protect harmony." She turned slightly toward the humans. "We have watched humanity carefully," she said. "We have studied your past, your failures, and your recoveries. We have seen how you respond when systems strain and trust weakens." Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned in. "You do not deny your hardship," the elder said. "You do not hide from it. You carry it forward and let it guide your choices." Alex lowered his gaze slightly. Sarah's hands rested calmly at her sides. Leo listened without expression. "For this reason," the elder said, "the Illyrians have made a decision." She paused, not for effect but for respect. "Humanity will be our closest ally." A quiet ripple moved through the chamber. No shouting. No gasps. Just soft murmurs and exchanged looks. The elder raised a hand gently. "This choice is not based on strength," she said, "nor on power. It is based on wisdom shaped by hardship." She looked around the room. Humans understand conflict not as something to chase, but something to manage carefully. They understand peace not as a gift but as responsibility. The words settled deeply. Alex took a slow breath. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. Leo nodded once, respectful and steady. When the floor was opened for response, Alex stepped forward. "We accept," he said simply. "With care." Sarah added, "We don't see this as a victory. We see it as trust." Leo finished quietly, "And trust deserves patience." The Illyrians seemed pleased by that. Across the galaxy, reactions followed quickly. Some systems welcomed the decision. Others questioned it. A few were openly skeptical. "They chose humans?" some asked. "Why not a calmer species?" others said. But the Illyrians did not argue. They shared records instead. They showed examples of cooperation. Trade stabilization. Reduced tension. Shared planning. Calm response during stress. The data spoke quietly but clearly. Over time, doubt softened. Humans did not change after the announcement. They did not push influence. They did not expand presence. They continued working the same way they always had, steady, careful, and patient. That consistency mattered most. Sarah continued improving communication systems. Alex attended joint councils when invited, never demanding attention. Leo monitored long-term stability, always focused on what might fail before it did. The Illyrians noticed how humans reacted when mistakes happened. They did not deflect blame. They adjusted. They repaired. One Illyrian elder said quietly, "They treat peace the way they treat survival. Carefully. Continuously. Together." Other species began to reflect on this. Many had believed peace was natural, something that existed unless disturbed. Humans seemed to believe the opposite. Peace existed because people worked for it. Because people remembered what happened when they didn't. During a private moment, an Illyrian asked Alex, "Do you ever wish your world had been gentler?" Alex thought for a long time before answering. "Sometimes," he said. "But hardship taught us what matters." Sarah added softly, "It taught us not to waste calm moments." Leo nodded. "And not to take peace for granted." That understanding spread quietly through the galaxy. The lesson was not written into law. It was not enforced. It was observed. Those who knew struggle often valued peace more deeply. Not as an idea, but as a practice. As time passed, the alliance between the Illyrians and humanity became a steady presence. Not loud. Not dominating. Just there when needed. And when the galaxy faced future uncertainty, many remembered this moment. When the most peaceful species chose humans not for power, but for wisdom earned the hard way. And the galaxy learned a quiet truth. Peace is not chosen by those who never suffered. It is chosen carefully and meaningfully by those who have.